It seems man's
This is Power 102 Digital Friday. Hard Talk starts now with the Single Fathers Association, hosted by Shervon, Lewis, and Mr. Wendell Grant. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Hard Talk.
Hey, good afternoon, David. Wendell, good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago.
Good afternoon.
How are you all doing? Wendell, David, how things?
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Goodbye, Grace.
Good, man. I know, as always, we want to thank Paul too for having the vision to create a space for men to discuss issues that are affecting us in Trinidad and Tobago. So, again, much respect to the executive for 102, David himself, for always being on here with us every Friday. Wendell, I was addressed a particular issue making the wrongs right now on social media, and I was in two minds as to if to address this issue or not. Yeah? But I've been getting more and more messages about this issue, and it has even gone further. And this is the issue of the page called "Is This Your Man TNT?" where people are posting images of men, women are doing so, and are saying, basically asking people, telling people, I've been talking to this guy for some time now, I've been talking to him recently, this person, check him out. Before I enter any serious relationship with him, I want to know if this is anybody man, so to speak. And obviously in an approach like that, there are a lot of men who are coming forward and saying that people are abusing them, right? And shaming them and putting their photos up there, even though they had no interaction with the individual who put in the photo up there. And to me, Wendell and David, to me, that's common sense, right? That something like that is a horrible idea. Because you would slander persons, right? You would find yourself doing that because it have bad mind people out here, it have people that lie. But what struck me about this is not just the individuals who conceptualize this idea, but it's the amount of support and traction that this idea is getting. That is what amazes me. The amount of people in support of what is ridiculous. And if that doesn't stop there, Wendell and David, a gentleman reached out to us just before I came on here. Wendell, I think again I can go from you. And he said that there's another page, Mind Your Child TT. And he was posted on that page, right? And he's saying false information is being shared about him on that page. I didn't even know that one exists as well. I want to get your take on this issue this evening.
Well, that is, I can't believe that they'll allow that to be on a social media platform. I mean, all kind of things are on social media platforms now, but that could be highly intimidating. That can be, disturbing. That could be infringing on personal rights. I mean, that is real madness, if you ask me.
Yeah, you're shaming people, David. We are shaming people. That's what we're doing. And, I always say, and I don't like to say these things sometimes, but I have to in these circumstances where there are sites, pages, or websites doing the same thing to women. There's a public hue and cry by all in society, even in government, right? When these same things are done to women, and rightfully so, right? Nobody should be subjected to this kind of thing. But why is there this silence by those in authority and those in leadership when these things are impacting men? Wendell, in there?
Yeah. to start off with, that particular behavior is a form of defamation of one's character. Um, we also have cyberbullying laws that would apply to situations like
Yes,
to
correct.
situations like that, not so?
Yes, yeah,
So
yep,
why is it the authorities are not stepping in and
correct.
dismantling the operation of this particular group of people or the page or whatever? Because I mean, there were individuals who fought to get cyberbullying laws passed to protect people from these very same type of situations. Um, the unfortunate thing in our country is that every time we come up with instruments of law, um, and it's approved, it always seems to be applied in a prejudice and biased manner. And especially the bias is always especially towards men,
Hmm.
as we are seeing in this situation. Because I agree with you, Shervon, had it been women that were coming under this type of defamation of character or character assassination, as the case may be, the authorities would have already acted. Not only that, certain female members certain female politicians and high-ranking female members of society would have already raised an uproar had it been women who were under attack. But unfortunately, I often wonder, and I often ask the question. I mean, the parliament and the leadership of the country is made up of both male and females, but in situations like these, when we see inaction, I often wonder if it's only females up inside there, because nobody seems to be representing the interests of men.
That's a solid point, Wendell. Solid point. And you're right on the cyberbullying front there as well, Wendell. Right? These laws were put in place to address issues like that. And this page now has been going for a short time now. Well, I'm assuming it's a short time, right? Let me just say that. I've only heard about it for a short time now, but it has sprung up in popularity in the last couple of days. And so you can't tell me that those in charge of these mechanisms, right, monitoring these mechanisms, that same cyberbullying and so on, that no one has seen that the gender-based violence unit is unaware that men are being cyberbullied in this country in that regard. And then there are people I'm seeing who are defending it and saying, well, if you wasn't there, we wouldn't call your name. What nonsense is that? How difficult is it to go up on somebody's social media profile and take a picture of them? How difficult is that? Anybody, David, could go on me, you, Wendell, Rondell, Marlon, anybody could go up on somebody's profile, take the photo down, right? And say, I was talking to this person and I want to know XYZ. Anybody could do that, right? I see the admin is putting out things saying that we vetting. Vetting what? How are you vetting? Wendell, I would have shared with you all some weeks back some websites where you could go and, David, you could go and create messages as if somebody and you send it talking on WhatsApp. And you could screenshot it and send it off to people to make them believe that you and I were having conversations. Right? There are deep fake websites where people could edit pictures so seamlessly now. Not like long time we used to see the head looking different than the body and all these kind of things. No, they're editing pictures seamlessly, editing videos with ease. So faking somebody's information, that's easy. So how somebody could come, how people, right-thinking people, smart people, so-called smart people, and talking about if you wasn't there, they couldn't call your name. Like, we don't know about bad mind and we don't know about lies.
Not only that, Shervon, I think it's well known that Trinidadians love bacchanal and gossip, and they love bad news. I mean, we through Single Fathers Association, we have learned the hard way that bad news is what sells. Nobody cares about whether you're a good man or not. If someone put up your picture there and say you did so and so. That is what is going to sell. The negative is what sells in this country. People don't care about positivity in this country. I mean, not everyone, of course, but the majority of people don't care about positivity. I mean, look at social media and you will see it's a buzz when it comes to negative things, when it comes to bacchanal and gossip, right? But post up, let's say post up a single father who is taking care of his 3 children by himself and the 3 children are doing well in school and all sorts of things. You won't see no comment on that,
Yep. Very,
right?
very
That's the
true.
reality. We live in a country that loves bacchanal, right?
Yeah.
So the people, and remember, we must remember that people who are illiterate, they don't have anything good to say because they have no knowledge. They're ignorant and foolish. They have no knowledge, so they only repeat what they see people putting out there. They wouldn't go and research, they wouldn't go and find out something. You know, if I see something on social media, the first thing I do is try to find out what is the reality before I jump in and comment on it. Right, but the majority of Trinidadians are not that way wired, and it goes back to the family of origin where they came from.
Yeah. Yeah. That desire for bacchanal and confusion is surely a spoke in the wheels of our society that we flock to that so easily. And now you have a situation where, Wendell, as this father reached out to us just before we went on the program, and I have to verify this page, right? Mind your child TT. Right? He sent that message just before we went on here, and I didn't get a chance. I'll check it while we're talking about. But here, apparently, posts are being made of um, fathers who owe child maintenance. Right? Yeah, look, I found it here. Yep, look, I found it here. Mind your YUH child TNT. Right? And again, pictures of men being posted and all kinds of derogatory things being said about them with no proof or proof that what is being said is actually true. Again, cyber bullying at its best. Cyber bullying at its best. And I don't know if it even makes sense, Wendell, to call on the authorities to address any of these things because clearly men are second class. Not even second class. I take that back. Men are somewhere 100 class citizens where this world and in Trinidad and Tobago is concerned. We're not even second class. And Wendell, you made a point about the personas. And to me, the root of this is, again, irresponsibility, you know. So let's just say, for argument's sake, somebody is dating somebody, right? A man and woman dating, and you really want to find out if this person is honest or dishonest or whatever the case is. Let me say, for argument's sake, is really somebody you're dating. This goes back, Wendell, to the statement made by the Prime Minister some years ago about choosing your man wisely. And everybody went up in an uproar. Right? Everybody was vexed with him. Oh, what are you doing, Prime Minister? You're victim shaming and victim blaming and all of these kind of things. Because at the end of the day, no one wants to take responsibility for their own actions and choices. So you have to go to Facebook to ask Facebook if you have a good man. Right? You have to go to Facebook to do that. But you don't want to take responsibility for your own actions and the own characters you involve yourself with.
But you know what is the unfortunate and foolish thing about all of this? At the end of the day, these women, the quality of women that are going on this particular social media thing and asking these questions or putting up men, those women are the same type of women that will knowingly be with a man or with men that they know are married or in a relationship with another woman. So this whole thing that they're doing, it's not about It's not about really finding out, you know. This is about the culture of Trinidadians that what they love, the gossiping and the bacchanal. That is what that is about, you know. Those women don't genuinely want to find out if the person that chatting them up or the person that they're interested in has someone else or has a family somewhere else, you know. They just want to put up this, they get their kicks by doing that. And that is what is unfortunate. Because many of those same women, if you check their background, you will find that they were with the people man sometime, somewhere or the other. Right? We know the culture that we live in, Shervon. We know the behavior of the individuals. There is a certain and you know, and I don't like to speak like this, but it is unfortunate that this is the reality that exists, right? People of a certain pedigree do not behave like that, right? I have had all types of women, different classes of women. And I am telling you, I have learned from experience that women of a certain pedigree do not behave like what you're seeing taking place on that social media platform.
It's really sad, Wendell. It's really, really sad. But Wendell, simultaneously, we have to put some blame on the brothers. And like the Prime Minister said to women, we have to give them the same advice as been given. Choose your woman wisely. Because
Siobhan, let me say this, huh? You know, I am not going to absolve men from any responsibility or blame for certain behaviors. But let me tell you something. The reality of the matter is, and I can't use the language, so I'll soften it up a little bit. Women sex who they want, and men sex who they can. That is the reality, right? So this whole thing about women making the claim that men misled them and men this and men that, whereas that may be the reality to a certain extent. The fact of the matter is a man cannot sleep with a woman unless the woman choose to allow him to, because she sexes whoever she wants to. But he can only sex who allows him to. And so the level of responsibility, if you understand what I am saying, is different between men and women. Right? So the man goes out there as a hunter and he is seeking to conquer and to capture and to do whatever. But in this case, this creature cannot be captured unless she allows the man to do so. You catch my drift?
yes, I catch your drift. I catch your drift. But I still not. Well, you're saying you're absolving them, and that
I'm
is
not absolving men.
yes.
They will
Because
do what they do.
yeah,
Right?
because at the end of the day, Wendell, sometimes we know it's traps, right? And we go down the road, and when we get catch, then we hold him head and gone. But you know that old saying, I don't know it so well. Don't take candle to see in the day. What it is? Don't take candle to see in the night, what you can see in the day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of times is going on. Sometimes, as you said, there are people who are genuinely misled, right? Someone really people over the eyes. But then other times, you have people getting their signs all along, right?
Let me tell you something. Siobhan, the red flags are always there, bro.
Right. But then
The red flags are always there.
as impregnating this person. And no, you're tied to them for life.
And whenever I speak with men, you can attest to that I don't hold back when it comes to putting men in their place regarding their behavior towards women and their foolish decision making processes that 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 resulted in us having to have the Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago in existence today, right? Because we had a situation with one brother, and he has children with three different women, and I made sacrifices. I go beyond the call of duty to assist this man in raising funds and so on. And when the first time I actually physically met him, I asked him, "What it is going on with you, bro? It's three of them you're telling me about, you know." The man said he was looking for love, right? Um, yeah, it reminds me of this song "Looking for Love in the Wrong Places," right? But at the end of the day, men need love too, and that's something that, I mean, that's an entirely different topic, right? But men need love too. Men need affection too. Men need attention too. Men need similarly the same sort of comfort and so on that women are looking for. But according to what the Prime Minister said, both men and women, in that instance, he addressed it towards women, but I am saying both men and women need to make proper decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and and men have to make decisions, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are being dragged before the court. They are the ones who spend a lot of their years being imprisoned when they cannot pay maintenance. Even though that there are orders for women to pay maintenance, and women don't pay maintenance, women don't get sent to prison, but men do. Right? Maintenance is the only non-criminal offense in this country that has a criminal penalty of serving jail time. And I mean, I can't understand that, right? I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that, right?
Wendell,
And as
and
Ron,
this
hmm?
goes to the same thing you're saying about how men operate, because the law doesn't differentiate in that case, right?
Yeah,
But what you have, and you and I see it all the time, you would have men who saying, "But I don't want to apply for no warrant. I don't want my child mother get locked up," right? You would have men who contact us who are abused, right? And they show
yeah,
us photos and thing at the black eye and bust mouth, and they don't want to report it because they're saying, "I don't want to get the woman in no problems and whatnot." But
hmm,
reverse those roles, and there's no mercy or no consideration of anything.
correct.
And so we men really have to take responsibility where a lot of people are concerned. Now, Wendell, I'm glad you went into the topic of maintenance, because that's another issue that has attracted quite a lot of attention since the program last Friday, and continuing throughout this week. We would have seen, and let me just say good evening to the listeners again. I see a couple of people messaging us. Good evening, Stashil, Jaron, Nika, and those who are online, and may not have message. Good evening to you all. And the numbers to call, if you all want to engage with us, the numbers to call are 222-8255, 222-8255. The toll-free number is 866-525-1099. And WhatsApp, it's on 868-318-1021. All right. So Wendell, garnering a lot of attention is this issue of arresting persons for non-payment of maintenance, right? And again, the opinions are divided, where you have persons who are saying, you know what, no, lock them up and throw away the key, right? And then you have those who are saying, what is the benefit of that to the child? Because at the end of the day, maintenance is for the benefit of the child. And as we enter this topic, I want to make it clear again, because we've made it clear several times. Even though there are those, Wendell, who you and I both know, who take our words and twist it, the Fathers Association has said continuously that fathers are to support their children financially. Full stop.
That's right.
Right? We have gone as far, Wendell has gone as far in us having these discussions in the past to say to fathers, even if you are being denied access, still support your child. Right? So for the naysayers who like to go out there and say, oh, we are advocating for men not to see about a child, I don't know where you always get that from. Because we have said it in very simple language over the years, and we continue to say it. You must support your child. But to discuss this issue of maintenance, you have to go back to the root of this whole thing. It is the whole issue of access and custody of children. And so, where we have been advocating for shared parenting and shared parenting time, if that is instituted, and it has been in other jurisdictions around the world, you would see a decrease in instances of non-compliance with support, because whoever has their child has to support the child, and has to support the child for the time that they're with them. But what we have at times, and we don't like to look at these aspects of it, we have, and it's proven, there are studies around the globe, right? I'll mention one of them shortly. There's the jurisdiction in Michigan had studied child support payments and compliance and the issues surrounding compliance. And what they found in that study is that where you allow parents to be a parent and not an ATM only in their child's lives, that you saw parents cooperating in the entire process. But where it is, we encourage the ATM orders. And ATM orders are, you'll see a child every other weekend. In some cases, we have people who get in to see the child one day every 2 weeks. But let me start with the every other weekend. Every other weekend. Good afternoon, Kivan. Thanks for joining us. Every other weekend, think about it, is 4 days on average a month, 48 days for the year. Think about it. So for the 365 days in the year, you have access to your child for 48 days of that year, when they are every other weekend access. And you say, well, he not part in the child life, and he not engaged in the child life, and he not active in the child life, but we have written him out of the child's life. That is what we are doing. And that is the order, Wendell and David, I am calling ATM orders. Because all you're doing is pushing for money. That is all you're doing. And I said, there's a study in the jurisdiction of the family courts in Michigan, where they have seen that where they allow fathers to be parents to their child, and they allow them greater access to their child, that issue of compliance has decreased. There's been greater compliance, let me put it that way. And in other jurisdictions around the world where there is shared parenting time, they have also seen that whole issue of conflict and squabbles about maintaining the child, that has also decreased, because everybody has to do their part now. Everybody has to do their part. And there are people, Wendell, you would know, who would reach out to us with maintenance orders over the years that is more than 3/4 of the salary that they're making. So it is not always, yes, we say that there are men and women who don't take care of the children. But that is not the case all the time. Everybody you see being picked up on a warrant, that is not the case all the time. When I'll jump in there.
I'm glad that you speak about in other jurisdictions the laws that they have in place that more suitable for meeting the needs of the child and create a more amicable environment for parents to work together. So, what that tells me is that the lawmakers in our country, they lack vision. Clearly, the lawmakers in those other jurisdictions, they have vision where they can see and foresee the benefits of such laws for both parents and children. So it comes back down to leadership. You see, we have a legislature. Laws cannot be changed or amended or enacted in this country without the legislature. And we, the population, we are the ones who put them there to represent us at the end of the day. Um, and interestingly enough, Shervon, it, as I'm speaking about this, I think again of what we started off speaking about the reality of the mindset of the people of our nation, where their focus is, right? You will see them going on social media and getting involved in all sorts of foolish back and forth, all sorts of unproductive conversation that amounts to nothing, that benefits no one, that pulls down people and pulls down our society, rather than get involved in conversations like this one that would put pressure on those who are supposed to be representing our interests as citizens, to put laws in place or to amend laws to better represent the interest of our children and our parents and our citizens. So it comes back down to the behavior, the attitude, and the mindset of the people. The things that are important, we don't talk about. The things that are important, we show no interest. But pulling down a man on social media, pulling down a woman, defamation of character assassination, we good for that. But holding the legislators accountable for their inaction in properly representing us, no, we have nothing to say about that. So the problem exists because of the mindset and the attitude and character of the people of this nation.
Yeah, yeah. And Wendell, I mean, the approach to me is so simple, The first time, let's say for example, we're talking about payments here, whether it's a loan or whatever it is, you have monthly payments to make, right? There's an engagement by when if you miss a payment, they engage you to find out what is going on, right? There are men who do not know, and let me say this for those who do not know, if you've lost your job, right? You've lost your source of income. If you're unable to work anymore because of disability or whatever the case may be, please do not just wait until your money pile up and they come and pick you up on a warrant. Right? Approach the court and let the court know, right, that your situation has changed. Let them know that you've lost your job or you're now disabled. Right? Don't wait to the point when there are several warrants outstanding for non-payment of maintenance. Often, because when you reach at that stage, then to get out of that mess at that point becomes complex and costly. And if you're already in a situation where you don't have the money to pay, far more to have to pay an attorney to dig you out of that hole. Right? So we are saying to all parents, and again, this isn't to excuse anybody from saying about their child. We say that it have enough work, it have enough places out here every day, walk down the street, whether it's a store work, whether it's a fast food restaurant, whether what, that you can get employment and you could assist in raising your child. Right? We're not excusing that. Fathers and mothers have to see about their child. But we also understand the real world that people lose their jobs. There was a point in my life I was laid off from a job many years ago, and I didn't have an income for about a year, trying to find alternative employment, right? And I had to do a little hustle here on the side and whatnot to try and make ends meet. So what we are seeing is that the system has to make sense. We know a couple years ago, right? The then Attorney General Wendell reported to the country that the state was paying $20,000 to $25,000 a month to keep a prisoner in remand yard. It's still in the papers. If you go and check the name of the article, Bring Down the Cost of Incarceration, it's in the Guardian. 2016, I believe. Is that correct? I don't think so. That date seems off. Right? But Bring Down the Cost of Incarceration, that's the title of the article. You Google that and you'll see it there. And the state was paying $20,000 to $25,000 a month, David, to maintain a prisoner in remand yard. So, and that is just the prisoner, David. But let me talk about the whole process. To apply for a warrant, you have to apply to the court. So, which means a court resource staff have to sit down and address that warrant, prepare that warrant. So that is a cost because there's a person, there's equipment that person is using, right? And paper and ink they're using as well. That's a cost. Then when that warrant is, when they finish prepare that warrant has to go to the police. And a police officer has to go out and serve that warrant. That is a cost. Right? Afternoon, Marlon. Thanks for joining, man. That's a cost as well. When the police arrest you, they have to bring you before the court, before a magistrate, before a master, before a judge. That is a cost. The time of the master, magistrate, judge, that is a cost. Right? And then you're given time to pay sometimes. And if you fail to meet the timelines put in place for payment, then you are arrested. A police or another warrant is issued. The police have to go out again, arrest you now, and carry you to the prison. So the $20,000 to $25,000 that is mentioned here in this article specifically refers to the cost for keeping you in jail. But it is greater than $20,000 to $25,000 a month time you add up the cost of all the different resources that I mentioned there. So the cost to incarcerate somebody for non-payment of maintenance is astronomical. When you take all those factors into consideration, is there another way to do it? Yes, there is. Number one, you must assess the reason for the non-payment of maintenance. That is the first thing. You must assess the reason, right? If somebody lost their job, what are we going to do? Just continue to arrest them over and over? Or are we going to work together with the agencies, right? And private sector and so on to get this person employed, gainfully employed? Right? If this person is disabled, are we just going to continue to cycle them with warrants without any assessment of the situation? I want us to think about it. And to the people who are saying that, well, that is what had to happen, right? That is what had to happen to men who don't see about the trend, to them deadbeat fathers. Let me switch it up a little bit. The same fathers who go to court and applying for breach of access, right? What do they get with them? Nothing. The mothers are brought before the court, reprimanded, and they've sent them out to do the same thing again. I would like to see a report that addresses breach of access. how much time, money, and resources are spent dealing with breach of access. Because we know that no strong message is being sent out there, Wendell, by judicial officers as it relates to this issue. Because all you continue to see is a rotation. People going in the court and out the court, in the court and out the court. Now there's no consequence.
So what we have is an inequity where the law is concerned, because the law is applied to men with a strong arm, but the law is not being applied to women with regards to this particular area. And the question continues to be asked: why as a society we are allowing this to continue to happen? I mean, the law is supposed to be for the lawless, right? If you don't break the law, you don't come under the power of the law. Yet we have women completely disregarding the law. I mean, look, we have a brother in our association who has not seen his child for close to 8 years, I believe it is, and he has an order giving him access to the child. And every time they appear in court, the magistrate or the judge instructs the woman to obey the order, and she goes away and disobeys the order, and nothing, absolutely nothing is being done for 8 years. So that's a situation where we can see that the law is not being applied when it comes to women. And why is that so? Why is that uh, being allowed to happen? Then the next thing that you're talking about, Shervon, is the cost, and we have dealt with this many times. The cost to keep a person incarcerated. And I believe, this is my personal view, I believe that there are certain people who may want it to be that way. The reason being is that that cost goes somewhere. That cost benefits someone. You know, it's not just like that money is being spent, but to keep a prisoner involves the supply of goods and services and so on. So I always ask the question, because I have to wonder, is it more important to imprison an individual for maintenance? Because the amount that is paid out in order to keep that man incarcerated is by no means near to what the child would have needed for support, financial support, during the period of his incarceration, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? Financially, the cost to the child, for the child, cannot be compared with the amount that is being spent to keep that child's father incarcerated. So why is it more important to jail the man at such a high cost, when that child could be, that same money can be used to support the child in some form or fashion? We have jurisdictions overseas where there are programs that provide jobs for men that are in situations like that and cannot pay make their child support payment. They go and they register with employment agencies and so on, and they place them and they garner their salaries and all of that. Why? And again, it comes back to vision. Why is it? Why those in authority in our country are not? We keep speaking about first world status and wanting to attain first world status, but why are we not taking examples of first world examples in order to make things better for our citizens so that we could attain onto first world status? Hmm?
No, some of the crazy things the first world is doing is that's the example we want to take. But the good things, we leave them out. Right? I have a
And I,
comment from Marlon, who is saying today was his third hearing for access. and the third time his son's mother didn't attend the hearing. Marlon, feel free to reach out to us on the program, and if you're so inclined to give us some more information, all right, because that could be for several reasons. 222-8255, 222-8255, 866-525-1099, or 868-318-1021. All right.
But Shervon, on that note, you know that you're aware that there are situations where when the table is turned in the other direction, and it is the man who has failed to appear in court on more than one occasion, the magistrate makes ex parte judgments in favor of the woman. Not so? We have had
but there's a process by which that happens. There's a process by which that happens, where you do what you call a substituted service firstly, where you can put an ad in the papers and those things, indicating to this person to contact the court, and if they haven't done so, and there are other aspects of substituted service as well, and not to talk over, not to confuse the listeners, but to begin a matter in the court, you have to have what you call service. And so this is done by two means. You could have it done, if it's a summary matter, it's served by the police, right? You apply, you make an application for maintenance custody access. And when you make that application, what the court does is it issues a summons to the police. And the police will take that summons and go out and find the person who you've made the application against and serve them, notifying that this application has been made against you and you have to appear before this court on this date and time, etc. Right? If it is before a judge, what you have sometimes is that it's being served by a marshal of the High Court, right? And that marshal will carry out that service. But the laws, or the rules, I should say, have been amended in some regards over the years to allow for what you call substituted service, which is in some cases you can't locate the person, so you can't locate them, so you serve them through other means, right? And as I mentioned, the ad in the newspapers, they have service now by email and all kind of different things. So I am not sure, as I say, Marlon, reach out and you could probably share with us what the situation is and we could discuss it further. But Wendell, we have seen where persons are having issues with their summons being served. And we know, right, that police resources are stretched. But again, if this is the means and mechanisms by which persons are to get access to justice and access to a court and to get a hearing, then there must be some evaluation by those in authority, the lawmakers, the judiciary, the police, has to examine how feasible, Wendell, this approach is at the end of the day. Because it makes no sense with telling persons this is the way to get access. Don't take things into your own hand, right? If it reach a place of a dispute, come to the court and we will help in mitigating this dispute. But when I come to the court, my case cannot start because the police can't serve the parent, the other parent. And sometimes we know this has gone on for months and years. And we know there are officers, Wendell, who work with the association to address these issues. But that can't be the norm or can't be the standard by which we operate. There must be an evaluation of if the system is working or this process is working. And then if not, then what else can be put in place? Because when you can't get access is when people take matters into their own hands. Go ahead, Wendell. I see you're going to say something.
Yeah, we have quite a number of cases where some of our members complain about the reality of what we're talking about here, where the case is being called before the court on numerous occasions, and no service has been made of the summons, and it can be very frustrating, because what happens when you have your child taken, when a man is separated from his child or his children, and the case keeps being adjourned continuously, it's more time is being given for the party who has possession of those children or that child to polarize that child's mind in a particular direction. And so we see a lot of time, so much time elapses before the case is actually heard before the court for access. On some occasions, that by the time the father does get access to the child, it's a difficult process for the child and the father to reconnect, right? And these are things that these things cannot. I don't see difficulty in addressing these situations, Shervon, because as you said, there are mechanisms that has been put in place. If one does not work, there are alternatives.
Yeah, yeah. I would say though, I was pleasantly surprised, if I'll put it that way. There's a gentleman who reached out to me a few weeks ago, and he has gone through the process trying to locate the mother to come to court. And the master in his case, he told me, issued a bench warrant for the arrest of the mother and to bring her before the court. Now, and kudos to the master for making that stance, right? Whomever they are for making that stance. But again, this person has been impacted where, and I know from the feedback they've given, the police has been communicating with them, but they've been impacted where the police has still been unable to locate the person to execute that warrant, not to serve it, to execute that warrant. Again, but it goes back, Wendell, to the root, right? If these things were the norm rather than the exception, and when I say these things, I mean if the harsh consequences for non-compliance of orders were across the board, then you would not see people abusing the court processes and resources. Because every time a master or judge has to sit down to hear a matter, we're talking about money, right? It is money. It's a cost. They have a team and staff attached to them and whatnot. It's a cost. So every time it's a cost. And if sterner action was taken in these issues of access, then people will not be encouraged to continue to flout the orders of the court.
I agree with you. You're quite right about that. And again, because of the inequitable application of the law, we have these sorts of situations continuing to exist. But you and I can't do anything about it other than to call upon those in authority to take action and to correct the inequity.
Yeah, yeah. And if somebody asks, what about those fathers who don't take care of the children? Yes, there must be things in place to deal with them too. We don't support that. Mothers or fathers, parents, you bring a child into this world, you have a responsibility to that child. And to me, that doesn't stop with finances alone. You see this whole
And
thing
that,
with make children and walk away? Because let me
yes,
tell you something, you all thinking money. There are people who just financially provide for a child. And that is it. They have no psychological or emotional. They are not parenting this. They want nothing to do with this child because it was an outside child or some kind of foolish thing like that. Situation like that, they get themselves tied up in, right? And all they do is send the money, big money, to the woman on the outside, but them and want nothing to do with the child. I have a problem with that, Wendell.
Gentlemen, we have a caller on the line here. Good afternoon, caller.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Marlon.
Hey, Malan. Thanks for calling, brother.
Yes, Shervon. Yeah, no problem, man.
Talk to me. What is
Yeah,
the situation? Is it that the mother has been served?
well, the past two occasions, or the first occasion, she wasn't served,
Mm-hmm.
right? And on the second occasion, the magistrate, well, the judge, well, she had given me the authority to go into the court to get the summons.
Right.
Well, I got the summons, and well, she told me to get someone who's an officer or something like that to serve it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tried, and it was unsuccessful because the person that I got, a friend of mine, well, they could have only gone morning period, right? So that went to her work, but the twice that they went, she was not there, right? So this, so, so when I was the second court date now, and we explained that to the judge and whatever. She was like, the names in this case sounding familiar to her, right? So what she did, she went and checked, and she said, well, my son, well, the mother of my son, she had a domestic case against me, which I did not know about.
Domestic
Right.
violence. She made an application for protection order.
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which I did not know about. So she said, well, all right, then, well, since that date is coming up soon, which was today, right? She said, well, we didn't need to serve our summons again because the mother of my son most likely would attend the hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, so this morning when I had the hearing now, my son mother never attended. Right? So the magistrate, so the judge, she put it off until a month from now. Right? But the only thing is that is she granted, I forgot what she said, but it's something under the domestic abuse stuff that I could get the summons, and this time any person could give her to go and carry the summons for my son's mother. Right? The only thing is that they will have to sign an affidavit or something like that. So that is my case. That is my problem at the moment.
Okay. So, what I would want to do, Marlon, what we would do, Wendell and I, we would talk to your office, right, after the program, so that I could you have the document already that she gave to you?
No, not as yet. No.
All right. So I want to see that document so that we can guide you accordingly, right? In terms of what is to be done with the document. Yeah?
Yeah, no problem.
But thanks. Thank you very much for calling and giving us that, Marlon. And the thing is, TNT, and this is what we were just talking about. It cannot be that the court is saying to Marlon, well, find a police to help you serve it. No. And that's the point Wendell and I were just making. It can't be the officers who decide that, listen, we would assist where there's an issue where Fathers Association is concerned. No, that can't be. That cannot be the standards by which we operate. Right?
And what, Shervon, excuse, one other thing, right? The thing is, the first time, well, when the judge gave me the authority to go in the court to go and get the summons for the first hearing, when I went to the court, the summons was never made. It was never done. Right? And I had to be going. It took 2 to 3 weeks for me to get the second summons. Right?
Well, let me tell everyone this, Alan. I'm glad you make that point. Every court in Trinidad and Tobago has a court manager, right? And when the services of the court are concerned, if you are not receiving optimum service, customer service, I would recommend that you will ask to speak to the court manager, right? And let the court manager know what is happening. Just like you would do in any establishment where you will go to, every court has a manager. Ask to speak to the manager and let them know the challenge that you've been facing. Yeah?
All right. Okay, no problem.
All right. Marlon, thanks for calling.
Thanks much.
Anyone, Remember, folks, the numbers to call 222-8255, right? 866-525-1099 is the toll-free number. And WhatsApp, it's 318-1021. But, back to that point again, Wendell, right? Look at the process for warrants versus the process for summons, man. Wendell. Look at that. Look at the process, right? And again, this issue of summons is not unique to fathers only. Yeah, it's the process across. When a woman goes to the court or a man goes to the court, a summons has to be issued, right? And we are calling for an assessment of that process to see how many cases are being delayed because there's no service. Because for the case to begin, there has to be some sort of service established, right? And a study must be done on that to see if it makes sense. Because if people cannot access the court, they are going to take matters into their own hands. And that is what we do not want. We want persons, right, being able to settle disputes between themselves in the best case scenario, but where you can't, that you can get the services of the court to do so. But if your case can't get off the starting blocks, then people become frustrated and all kind of foolish things happen thereafter. But I want to go back. Go ahead, Wendell. Go ahead.
Shervon, you and I, we at the association, we don't want people to reach the point of being frustrated and fed up with the system not working for them and take matters into their own hands. We don't want that. But often I ask myself if certain people in positions of authority want the opposite of what we want. Because these individuals who have the power to do something to prevent things escalating into possible murder, suicide, as we have seen taken place in our country, they're not doing anything. So whereas you and I may not want to see things escalate, I often ask myself, is it that there are people who want to see things escalate for a particular reason? Because by standing idly by year after year, I mean, the Single Fathers Association came into being 12 years ago, around 12 years ago, and we've morphed into the Fathers Association, and we have had numerous meetings. We have presented proposals, we have made suggestions, we've been calling on the Attorney General for a meeting. We have been raising the issue and sensitizing the country and the citizens concerning their rights, concerning the failures of the system, and all of these things. And yet, those in authority continue to operate as though their hands are tied, or as if they're not hearing us, or they're hearing us and ignoring us. And certain sectors of the population continue to suffer, right? I mean, the children are supposed to be the future of our country. They are the future workers, the future teachers, police officers, doctors, whatever. They are the future. And yet we have our children growing up in conditions of fatherlessness. We have mothers taking advantage of fathers. We have fathers being imprisoned because they cannot adequately provide by means of paying and maintenance. And these are matters that can be resolved, Shervon. These are not impossible situations to deal with. So why? I have to keep asking, why is it that our members of parliament, why is it that our legislators are turning a deaf ear to the needs of the citizens in these particular areas?
And it isn't, Wendell, like there, there's so much data out there on the impact of children, on the impact on children growing up in fatherless homes. There's so much data. So you would
Precisely.
that that our strategies would be to encourage fathers and not discourage them. You would think that the strategy would be to build bridges and roads so fathers can have access to parent their children and not walls to keep them away. We have a crime situation in this country for years that has been getting worse and worse by the minute. You have gunmen who went looking for people in the night again. They're coming out in the broad daylight. Right? No handgun shooting again, Wendell. It's machine guns, like in the middle of a war zone. And yet still, every time we come on the program, and all the years prior, we are saying we have to do something. We have to get fathers involved. And as you've rightfully said, Wendell, we don't just sit down here and talk and we'll talk. We have been advocating, we've been putting down solutions and suggestions for how some of these issues are to be treated with. Right? Look, we were just talking about how to treat with non-compliance for maintenance. We mentioned some jurisdictions where learnings can be taken from. But I again, as you say, Wendell, it all just seems to fall on deaf ears. Now, you made a point, Wendell, and I just wanted to come back on that. You made a point about employment for parents who have lost their jobs or businesses to be able to help them to pay their maintenance. And there's also jurisdictions who are giving financial literacy programs to individuals who are in these situations and need to know financial and money management and all of those things. Right? But, I go back to the point of people stop just looking at this on the surface. Stop looking at it on the surface. There are several layers beneath this. And as I said, if we deal with some of the issues related to access and shared parenting, then a lot of these issues will go away. If we're serious about it, because when we think, why is my taxpayer money and David and Wendell's taxpayer money and all of your taxpayer money, why is that money going towards feeding somebody in prison, maintaining them in prison, when a child's still going hungry at the end of the day? Why is our money going towards that? The article said, I said 20 to 25,000, and then you have to add all of the police resources and court resources required to execute a warrant. So it's way more than that. Why is our money going towards that? Our taxpayer money going towards that? Couldn't it be used for something more productive? And that is where we need to go as a citizenry. Mentally, that is where we need to begin thinking. Wendell?
All right. So again, we come back to the mindset, where as a nation, the direction in which we need to begin to invest our thoughts and our efforts. And it's very disappointing, as I said before, to see where as a nation our citizens spend most of their thoughts and their expressions on useless expressions. But all we can do at this stage is to continue to encourage fathers not to give up. I know there are a lot of men out here that are hurting, a lot of men that are frustrated because the system has been failing them. And we need equity, Shervon. We need equity. As you would have said, as we keep reminding people, elections is coming soon, and we have to think about the people that we are placing our vote for and how they are going to represent us. Because clearly we have, in this regard, and I want to emphasize the fact that we may be talking about men and the failure of the system towards men, Shervon, but the central focus here should really be how it impacts our children. And as you would have said, the research is out there. It's accessible to all to see how fatherlessness and these sorts of situation impacts a child's upbringing and what type of citizen that is produced under these conditions. And you would have mentioned about the crime rate or the state of crime in our countries, in our country, and I want our citizens to really think about it and wrap their minds around the ages of the youth and the people that are involved in crime. When we see videos being put up with men with big guns, as you would have said, no longer pistols but machine guns, Shervon. It's not men your age and my age. It's not big men. It's little boys, teenagers, men in their early 20s. And if you would trace it, you would find that a lot of these delinquents came from homes where fathers were not present. That's a sad reality.
Yep.
Is it that our leaders want our society to produce these kinds of citizens for some particular reason that you and I may not be able to understand? Why is it that it is being allowed? The evidence is there. Whose agenda is our leader towing? Whose agenda are our leaders, our politicians towing? Whose line are they towing? What agenda are they towing? Because I just can't figure it out, Shervon.
Yeah.
Because we keep the evidence is there in our society. The negative impact or consequences of fatherlessness and what these difficult types of situation has produced, that evidence is there. We are presenting evidence of research that suggests or that confirms why the problem exists, and yet still our leaders are not lifting a finger.
Yeah. It's really mind-boggling, Wendell.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. That there are some comments here I missed. So Dr. Niz said the money spent on prisoners is to keep them away from law-abiding citizens so that the country won't spiral into anarchy. Dr. Niz, I think you came in late. The money we are speaking about is in relation to persons arrested on maintenance warrants. That is the money we're speaking about, right? Not prisoners in general. Or persons accused of crime in general, right? Mr. Pandey, I also missed some of your messages earlier. The person by the name of Mr. Pandey 1000. I apologize. So he says every time you all expand on the every other weekend default access arrangement into a yearly perspective, it hurts because I'm currently having the same arrangement with my sons. He says, I feel like I don't have enough time to properly raise and instill values in my sons' lives. And at the end of the month, their mother is looking forward to maintenance. Yeah, Mr. Pandey 1000, we hear you. When you do the maths, you really see how drastic and imbalanced this situation is. And I saw someone write an article one time, and they were saying to parents who were saying every other weekend is fine. They said, well, then you take it. Give me the child, and you take every other weekend since you find it's fair, right? And for those who came in late, what Mr. Pandey is referring to is we're saying every other weekend equates to about 4 days a month and 48 days a year. 48 out of 365 days for the year. And this is why he's saying he doesn't feel like he has enough time to properly raise and instill values in his son's life. Because 48 days a year, or let me put it, 48 days out of 365 days for the year, right? How is he supposed to parent his child or instill values, as he rightfully put it, into his child during that short time? 48 days a year. Let me just tell you all this about 13, not 30, 13% of the time of the year you have access to your child. That is absolutely crazy, Mr. Pandey 1000. We agree with you. And we have been advocates, and we're calling on you to advocate for that change as well. When our elected officials come around in a couple months to kiss your babies, all right? Ask them that question. What are you doing to represent me and my interests in Parliament? Dr. Nez, I saw your message. Yes, all right, we get it. You missed that part due to connectivity. Yeah.
Yeah, Shervon. That whole time frame is absolute total madness, because that is something that I had to wrestle with before the court when I was in that particular situation as well. And the reality of it is that a father cannot positively impact his child in any significant or meaningful way for 48 days of an entire year. And let me break it down further. We break it down to 48 days here. But let me break it down further. In order to access the child, you have to go and pick up the child, right? And the scenario is every other weekend. So if you are living in Sijas and the woman has moved out of Sijas and she's living in Toko, that's the amount of time that you spend on the road traveling with your child to and from. So it means that when you pick up the child, if you're picking up the child on a Friday evening or a Saturday morning, you spend hours going towards home and you spend that same amount of hours taking the child back. So let's say you take 2 hours traveling time, right? Where then the child has homework to do, right? The child, some of these women, what they do is they put the children into extracurricular activities as well, so that when you have access to the child is tied up in something so that you are not actually spending time with the child, right? And all of these are strategies that are employed by women to prevent fathers from spending meaningful time with their children. Yet, the court does not consider all the nitty-gritty that goes into it, and they appear to have this default position. All right, we will give you every other weekend, and that's it. As though that is what a child having a father in his or her life is worth, right? Like I said, yes, we focus in some of our attention on the fathers, but more importantly, when a ruling is made, that is also a sentence that is being imposed on the child, you know. It's not just the father that you're imposing that sentence of every other weekend on, you know. Who tells the court that that child wants to spend only every other weekend with with his or her father? Can you imagine a situation where a child has grown up for 2.5 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, having his or her father every single day of his or her life, and then the court comes in after the breakup and says, all you deserve is to see your father for 2 days?
Yeah.
Because they're making the ruling for the man to have access to the child, but the child needs his or her father. So what they are in effect doing and saying is, you child, boy or girl, you only deserve to have a father for 2 days, for 48 days for the year. Forget about the fact that the year is 365 days and the child is accustomed to being with his or her father. Now that the breakup has taken place, this child only deserves to have a father every other weekend, 48 days for the year.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to be dealing with intelligent, learned people here, right?
And Benedict puts it very practically on YouTube. Benedict says, in a divorce, wealth is decided 50-50 oftentimes when the sharing wealth he's speaking to. So then the father should have 50% access, right?
Well, exactly.
Common sense, right? That's just common sense.
And that's what I'm saying. We are supposed to be dealing with people who are supposedly intelligent, learned people. And you will say, they will say to you, split the wealth, split the resources down the middle, 50-50. But they will say to the child, you only deserve every other weekend, 48 days for the year. How
48
is
days.
that making sense?
13%. Remember that, man?
Yeah.
1-3. 48 days out of 365 days in a year. That somebody sits comfortably and believe that is sufficient for a child to have access to their parent.
And that's supposed to be an intelligent person who's sitting comfortably and believing that. Huh? Mathematically, it doesn't make sense. How it could make sense in any other form?
Yeah. And you know, when you look at the psychological impact, Wendell, right? This child, father, mother, child growing up in a home together, or children growing up in a home together. And let's say this child gets to 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. We've seen this happen, Wendell. These calls come to us. And then the parents separate. This child goes from coming home every day and having both parents, right? A separation in itself is already traumatic to a child. It's already traumatic. And that's another thing, right? Some of the guys in the group was sharing some contributions, and I agree with them about the Ministry of Education having a role in terms of their counselors and their social workers in guiding children through these situations, these unfortunate situations, right? But so you go from a situation of having coming home and having both your parents to now being separated. One of your parents is out of the house, father or mother. And it not only goes from one of the parents being out of the house, but now you cannot have any or you have no or very limited access to your parent. Think about how that plays on a child mentally.
Not only the parent, Shervon. We need to go a little bit deeper. Do you know that a lot of children are robbed of their heritage, their inheritance, possible blessings of wealth, lands, houses, etc., because they are cut off from the paternal family members, like the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, right? Because that 2 days every other weekend does not permit sufficient time for that child to spend time bonding with grandparents or even visiting the grandparents, right? And this is an aspect, because this is something that I have to deal with on an almost daily basis. I get calls from granny, I get calls from grandpa, my grandson is going through so and so, I get calls from sisters and aunties, right? Who are concerned about their male family member excuse, on what he is going through as a result of the injustice that he is facing before the court and at the hands of the wife that is now estranged, right? So we often do not include the fact that you and I both know that Grandparents love their grandchildren, but you have to be able to spend time with granny or grandpa, and especially among the Indian community, they will give you a little piece of land. Might buy a vehicle for you when you reach driving permit age, and all of these. These are things that I know about and witness for myself, right? But when the child is cut off from having adequate time to spend with the father, the child is also robbed from all of these other benefits, and bonding with the other the family members on his father's side, right? And that is something that I often wonder if the court looks at these things, if the magistrate thinks about these things.
Yeah, yeah. Benedict says here again, he says we need a white paper to be brought to Parliament with respect to parental equity between parents. There's a push we need to make under the Marriage Law Act. Benedict, we went to a joint select committee and raised a number of these issues here that we're discussing today. And the Parliament has in its archives, if I can call it that, the report from the Joint Select Committee with recommendations to a number of these things. And like many things in Trinidad, I wouldn't spend too much time talking about it. It's just sitting somewhere collecting dust on somebody's bookshelf. But back to that point, Wendell. The maths don't make sense. Psychologically, it doesn't make sense. Right? When you look at, as you put it rightfully, the whole generational connections, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Right? We are actually stripping children down, ripping them apart. And when we see them acting out the way they're acting out right now in the schools and on the side of the road and on the kind of things that they're involved in, say, but what is going wrong? And as you said, Wendell, a number of these situations, when you check it back, a number of these criminal offenders, when you check it back, if you do a study, you would see a lot of them come from fatherless homes. And there's another post, let me tie it in one time, that has been making big waves too. The post says so many kids grow up thinking they have a deadbeat father. Whole time all they really had was a very bitter mother. And people gone off. Not in my case. We have accepted and said and continue to pong into the heads of men who walk away from your children that you will answer to God for that one day now. You will. That's a serious thing. You have to stand for your children. There's no option to walk away here. I don't care if it was an extramarital affair or what. Once a child is conceived, life comes from God. You have to stand for your children. You'll have to answer for it. And we continue to be on the case of men because we get called from mothers as well who say to us, I want my child father to be a part of his life and I want him to be present. And he doesn't, I can't even find him. He ignoring my calls, he ignoring my messages and all of these things. And we have been saying to those fathers, step up. Step up, because you're spitting in the face of every one of these brothers who want access to the children and don't have it. So step up. But simultaneously, we need to acknowledge the fact that this statement is true. That not everyone who doesn't have a father, it means it's a deadbeat father. You know? There are bitter women who have kept children away from their father, and that is a fact. Your situation is true, where you have fathers who have abandoned children, and this situation is equally true, where there are fathers who have been pushed away and alienated from their children, and there are some who fight to the end. And I also understand those who can't take it no more, because it is a mental battle. It drains you. It drains you when you are in a situation where you are fighting tooth and nail every day to be a parent to your child.
And the reality is, Shervon, that as we have discovered, not all fathers are deadbeat fathers, but some fathers have been beaten dead. And that's how I put it, right? The reason I say it like that is because a lot of fathers have been beaten dead by the antics and the theatrics and the hate and the venom, the bitterness of the mother who has used the system of injustice towards men to beat them into a position. And the reality of it is, and I have faced this myself at one point in time, where I thought to myself it would be better to turn and walk away than to face this turmoil, to face this bitterness, to face this evil, right? Because at times that is what it amounts to, you know. It amounts to the very essence of evil that some men have to face, right? But some of us are not wired to give up. You know, some of us are wired to battle all the way to death. So that is why I would not have walked away. But there are men who are not wired like you and I, Siobhan, and they would take the road of self-preservation and they would walk away. So not all men are deadbeat because they choose to be that way. Some are deadbeat because they were beaten into submission to that.
Wendell, I remember when I was going to court for access to my daughter, there was a point I would wake up on the day that I have to go. And Wendell, I'll just cry, you know. And I'll tell my wife I don't want to do it no more. I don't want to go. Just forget. I don't want to do it no more. I can't. And she had to be encouraging me and willing me on, Wendell. I telling you, Wendell, hadn't it been for her encouragement, I would not have continued through that court battle. So I understand when brothers say to us, Wendell, boy, the child will get big enough and I can't do this no more. And you see the look in the eyes and you hear the tone in the voice. I understand. I used to tell her I can't do it no more. When I see an email from my attorney and she's saying to me, Shervon, read the submission, Wendell, my hand used to start to tremble because I know it's 20 pages of lies and slander and all kind of thing and character assassination, as you call it. And I had to read through every point that I had to help the lawyer respond to that. Terrible.
And that's a very traumatic experience, huh?
Yeah. I telling you, as man, I tell you, I had days I wake up and I say, I'm not going. I don't want to do it no more. I don't want to. Ottoman says, yes, Mr. Grant, but are the battles men can face? It's terrible enough to find out your wife wants a divorce and you have to process that. Then you have to deal with summons, courts, lawyers. Yeah, that's true, Ottoman. Very, very true. Very, very true. You know, this young lady, her name escapes me right now, but she's a parental alienation advocate in the US. And she has been speaking about the cost of family courts and those who are benefiting from it. And that is an interesting study to do right here in Trinidad and Tobago, you know, Wendell. Very interesting study to do. Right? Because it's a profit is being made of the pain and trauma that children and families are going through. So that's a good point, Dr. Man.
Yeah, I guarantee you, there are those who are profiting. I mean, we know from our conversations with men who we represent, who we encourage, we know that we know what they face with some of the attorneys in this country. We know the prices, we know the difficulties, we know how cases are dragged on in order, you know, there is profiteering taking place. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Right? And that is a human right violation, right? And that's the thing. Since I started with this organization, I have been saying that there are some significant human rights violations taking place with regards to how these matters are being handled. But unfortunately, we don't have lawyers in this country who would be willing to take up such a fight on behalf of men, right? And as we all know, we could get representation from foreign, but it would cost an arm and a leg, which men don't have because we struggle to pay our maintenance, right? So where are we going to get lawyers to represent us in a human rights violation case? But I guarantee you, if we examine these matters closely, how some of these judgments are being made, our rights as human beings are being violated.
I remember a gentleman saying to me one day, he was recounting for me the amount of money he spent for his divorce. Right? I think he had to sell the house, sell the car. Right? Well, they made to sell the house and share the money and whatnot and whatnot. But he had to sell his car, sell other things to make up money to pay for the attorney for the divorce. He got access, and now there was a breach of access. And he was telling me the bill the attorney is giving him again to now apply for the breach of access. And he said, I can't afford it anymore. I'll go bankrupt. So I can't do anything. I have to leave it as is. And that in itself is a travesty. And because there's no clear condemnation way about parental alienation, whether in law or by judgments, people feel encouraged to do it. Because if I am the one who is doing the parental alienation, I don't have to go to court unless you take me to court. So it costs me nothing initially to harm you. There's no consequence to me initially. You have
That's
to
the
fight
reality.
and carry me to court. And when you do get the money to carry me to court, I'll just get a slap on the wrist. And that'll be the end of it. That's not fair. Not only not fair, we are harming our children. Somebody saying calls, somebody message here and they say calls not coming through. I don't know. We didn't get any calls. David, you got any calls coming
No,
through?
I'm monitoring the system here and I haven't seen any calls coming through.
All right, just check the number. Make sure you have the right number. 222-8255. The toll-free number is 866-525-1099. And WhatsApp 318-1021. All right? Just check and make sure you're calling the right number. So it can be fair. And it's not a matter of fairness from just giving equity, but fair in terms of what are we doing to our children? What are we doing? Are we thinking about that? What are we setting up our children for failure? And as we get ready to wrap up, because we just have 7 minutes, I see on my clock there, Wendell, mothers and fathers, we're calling on you. You see, unlike the other associations out there, those feminist associations who want to be elevated and to stamp on men, that is not what the Fathers Association is about. We are calling on mothers and fathers to come together, to work together, to raise productive citizens. That's what we're calling on. We're not calling for one over the other. We are saying let fathers be present. Let fathers be allowed to parent. Let fathers be allowed to play a role. because that is our God-given right, same as it is yours as a mother. Let us do this together and raise productive children. That is the end of it all. Thanks, Kivan. Kivan said the children and their future should always be at the forefront. That is it. That is it there.
Gentlemen, let's take this call. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Grant.
Afternoon, brother.
Hello.
Yes, brother. You hearing us?
Hello.
Are you hearing us, brother?
Are you hearing Shervon?
Yeah, good evening.
Hello, I'm not hearing any response.
You hearing us, brother?
You mentioned to the gentleman, I was spending radiation days seriously because I haven't seen my child in over 3 years. And my maintenance is still up to date. You know, so it's a very painstaking journey for us as men to travel to endure. You know, I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Okay, thank you, my brother.
Thank you, brother, for that contribution. Thank you. And that is what we're saying there, Wendell and David. Look at this, brother. He's saying his maintenance is up to date, although he has not seen his child for 3 years now.
And
right?
this man has an order from the court. This man has a legitimate court order giving him access to his child, right? And the child's mother continuously breaches the order with no consequences from the court.
Now, if he didn't pay his maintenance for 4 weeks,
That's right.
He'll be arrested.
That's right.
But he hasn't seen his child in 3 years.
And she has not been arrested.
And again, it's not that the denial of that parental alienation, as we've said ad nauseum, has an immense psychological impact on the child. In fact, jurisdictions around the world have now classified parental alienation as a form of child abuse because they have studied and recognized the severe impact that this has on the life of a child that follows them all the way into adulthood. So doesn't this deserve the same seriousness? Doesn't it deserve that, Wendell?
Well, therein lies the difference between first world jurisdiction and third world jurisdiction. First world leadership and third world leadership. That's the defining factor, bro.
We continue to call, as the time wraps up, we continue to call on the people who are listening or who will listen later on for you to stand up with us and call for the changes that need to be made to the legislation of our country. As Wendell pointed out earlier, we have an election coming up, right? And you know these politicians going to appear, some of them for the first time. And when we say politician, we're talking about all on both sides, right? They're going to appear for the first time. And they're going to tell you, give me the authority to go in parliament and represent you. That is what they're asking you for, to represent you. Then you need to demand from them representation. Right? All the things that you call us to advocate for, you need to demand that from them. You need to say to them, what about my paternity leave? And what about shared parenting? And what about serious consequences under the law for breach of access and for paternity fraud?
I see
you need to ask them what they're doing with that. Sorry, David. Go ahead.
You have 2 messages here that I'd like you to read, especially this one from Benedict Damien.
Okay. Benedict says, the relationship does not end with separation or divorce. There's still the child to protect and educate. Something that humans tend to push aside, the responsibility that comes with having children. Go to the front of the class, Benedict. Excellent contribution. Wendell, we just have a minute again. Let me leave you with any final words.
I want to continue to call upon the powers that be, upon those who we have elected to represent us, to manage the affairs of our countries, to represent our interests and the interests of our children who are the future of our country. Please pay attention to what is happening. Our people and our country needs to have equity when it comes to these issues, because we are throwing away the potential of our future generations by disregarding and misrepresenting and hurting our children.
Thank you, Wendell. Kivan says Cassie goes outside, focus on doing the best for your children. I don't think we could say it any better than that, Kivan and Benedict. Right? The relationship may have ended, as Benedict says. Your romantic relationship may have ended, but your parenting relationship goes on for a lifetime. Don't allow that separation to break your children, right? Still build a future for your children. David and Power 102, thank you all very much for having us.
Yes.
Trinidad Tobago, thank you very much for tuning in. Follow our Facebook page, the Fathers Association, Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And be sure to tune in next week. Have a blessed weekend, you all. Be safe.
Jeron Sintiller is saying, thank you, members of the panel, sharing very thoughtful insights. Great program. I share that with him also. And I wish you the same, Sharon and Wendell. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, David. Blessings.
Okay, that's it for today's edition of Hard Talk with the Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Shervon Lewis and Wendell Grant. Next week, we'll have another edition right here at Power 102 Digital Friday from 4:15 in the afternoon.